which you talked about. You don't have to talk about everything you talked about, but I want to make sure that all your materials that you've written down are back up on this table so I can take them. I also have cards if you want to email me additional information as well, if it's not all in paper. So, and let's get that into me by the end of next week, and we can go from there and work with the MetroWest to move it forward. So start with Yolanda and
Sure.
your group and go from there.
Sure. So we had East Ashland, Framingham, Sherborne. We had the Framingham people look at their map and where they were at, and we looked at Ashland's. So I'll go by these by priority. So of course our Ashland group as priority was Ashland, but as we were trying to look around regionally, we talked about the two major priorities we felt were Sherborne connecting to Ashland, Holliston, and Framingham to complete that Upper Charles, as well as the work in Ashland to complete our Upper Charles, but also the Upper Charles to the Bruce Freeman in Framingham. So the idea of having that whole Upper Charles into Hopkinton and Milford, and then to the Bruce Freeman. And then in Framingham, they thought the next priority was the Mass 30 crossing at Stony Brook Bridge because it's a pedestrian issue. They also would like to see the Contiguous Rail Trail to Carroll Getchell, make that connection. Then the Framingham Weston Aqueduct Tunnel under Grove Street, the east end of the Sudbury Aqueduct, and then very bottom on our list is the Holtman Aqueduct that goes from Southborough into Weston and Wayland. And as we were also looking at our map, and I'm sure the people who are doing Hopkinton and the other side of Ashland will talk about this, on the map there's two spurs identified in Ashland. One connects through the Hopkinton State Park and then to the rest of the Upper Charles. The other spur does not, so if it's the other spur that we take, that connection into downtown Hopkinton would want to be a priority as well. That was it.
Okay, let's go with Southborough and the rest of Ashland.
Yeah, right. So we had Southborough, Ashland, Southwest Ashland, Hopkinton. I do want to emphasize Hopkinton. It's Hopkinton, right? Hopkinton, and then we also talked about some of Milford and Holliston. And so what we did is we identified what is existing out there, and the Upper Charles River Trail actually coming from southern Hopkinton into Milford and into Holliston is complete. They're going to be working on a section this year from Holliston into Sherborne. So the gaps here are shown, and what we did is we tried to identify, there are a bunch of gaps, but you can't lay a whole bunch of gaps on MAPC to put in priority order, so let's put them in priority order. And so what we did is we looked at the nexus of Ashland, Southborough, and Hopkinton right here at the T station. So it would connect with, here's the Upper Charles River Trail. There's some work that still needs to be done here, but if we could connect that, there are some existing sidewalks, there are trails already in the park, and if we could make that connection, that would be priority one. Priority two would be down here. It's the Legacy, Wilson, and Howe Road area. That would be an alternative way of connecting the Upper Charles River Trail with itself through the contiguous towns, and then also connecting three towns all in one. So those are our two priorities, and then here are other areas that need to be worked on, but this is what we thought would be sensible to focus on. And actually it dovetails with what you guys were talking about, to connect Framingham and your area with the Upper Charles River Trail. So that does a pretty comprehensive job of connecting multiple towns.
Good. Our last group, Weston, Wayland, Wellesley.
We're gonna have two-minute presentations, right?
That's good.
Because we never managed to get back together.
I told you
So
guys
looking
to
at two.
talk to Jason Tech.
So I'm Weston Wayland group, and we sort of divided everything to east-west and north-south. And like much in Boston, the east-west is in better shape than north-south in terms of road system, etc. So east-west were roughly in good shape because of the Mass Central Rail Trail. I know Weston has a very bad reputation for some of you here 20 years ago. But we're going to correct that all. We have an active rail trail committee. In fact, two members are right here, Paul and Chris. And so there's a lot of smart, hardworking people making this happen. So that's gonna happen. It's gonna be from Wayland all the way into Waltham. We have one major gap, and the gap is 128, crossing 128, and roughly speaking, a mile on either side of 128. There are various plans about that, you know about. It's gonna take some concerted effort across the region, particularly Waltham and Wayland, Waltham and Weston working together to make that happen. But it's gonna be really cool, and we'll all be riding on it in our own lifetime, I'm sure. The other east-west is the aqueduct, and that's also in pretty good shape. We talked, with you were there, about the just small section of looking for an alternate bike route in a certain area where it's really just for a walking trail, single path walking trail. That's doable. North-south, more complicated. We have a lot of trails in Wellesley, in Lincoln, in Weston, tons of trails. The issue is simply identifying what is a good path north and south. There's the Bay Circuit, which is along the west side of Weston, also other route in Wayland. So maybe building on that, building on certain recent purchases in Weston, we can identify a good trail. But that's a gap because it's, you know, there's ideas, but how do we make that reality? That's it. Thank you.
One more?
Maps. Martin Kessel from Natick, and we kind of broke off into a Natick Wellesley group because we have a number of issues that we've been working on for many, many years, as long as I've been involved, certainly. Mainly involving connecting the two aqueducts that are in common to our town. So in the south is the Sudbury Aqueduct. Wellesley's developed very well to in their section. We have some spots where it just it goes underground and it goes on private property in our section, and part of that's developed, part of it we're working on. But the connection goes on Route 16. There's some private property. So we talked a bit about Wellesley's plan to go along Route 16, perhaps to meet this, and on some existing roads before it hits back to where it becomes a trail again. We've also been working in Natick about the connection to Sherburne, but that's in a kind of, unfortunately, we're not part of the group, but we do need to talk to Sherburne about some of these areas. In the north, the Constituent Aqueduct, in Natick, we've just completed a very difficult half-mile section. It connects to the Wellesley section. Somewhere there is Route 9, I think it's there. Wellesley has been working on the Route 9 crossing, which is a big issue. We kind of have this 1 mile stretch now in Natick Wellesley, and then Wellesley has another 3 miles throughout the town of Wellesley, and there's Route 9 in the middle. And if they could work, or we could all work on a passageway under Route 9, it would be fantastic. Danny was also talking about the eastern end of the Constituent Aqueduct, crossing 128 and Charles River into Newton. The other end of the Constituent Aqueduct in Natick, it's marked on this map. We're trying to figure out what they were marking. I believe it's all on roads because it's all the aqueduct there in the western part of Natick is all private property. So there's probably some concept of going onto roads, but we're also working in the Pickle Pond area within Natick to try to get some nice connections there. And I think that's about it. Anything listed?
Excellent, thank you very much. That's very helpful. So I think our next process, thank you all for all of your work and enthusiasm. Again, put all of what you've written up on this table so I can take. Any other maps you're welcome to take back as you wish. I can send you PDFs as well of the maps. And so my next steps are to put this all together. And again, if you're emailing me, do that by the end of next week. And then Karen what will you do? Or what will
Well, we'll be, the MWRC board will be talking about possible next steps. What role we might want to take, what funds, if any, we want to put towards this, and we'll be back in touch.
Will we also email out your
Oh,
report
excuse
to
me,
everyone
yes.
who registered